Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. In Nova Scotia, Passamaquoddy fishers came up from the state of Maine to harvest baby eels. Doing this despite a current Canadian government ban on the lucrative fishery, where they can sell for up to $5,000 a kilogram. They say their treaty rights have no border. Angel Moore brings us this story exclusive to APTN.
These fishers are dipping their nets, hoping to fill them with elvers. But what they are doing is illegal according to the Canadian government. But Adam Newell doesn't care.
But we have to continue this fight because our people died for it. Our ancestors fought and died for this, for us here today. And we're going to honor them. We're going to honor their deaths. We're going to honor that by continuing to fish in a very management way, in a very conservation way.
On April 15th, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans banned harvesting elvers for 45 days due to violence and poaching. But Newell says treaties take precedence over colonial laws, as stated in the 17th century peace and friendship treaties. Fisherman Eric Francis says,
"We use our treaties to fish all over, wherever we can, our ancestral lands. And that's a big thing, is allowing us to have the access, our children, our grandchildren, and so on."
Not only that, Newell says the treaties were in place before there was an international border.
Back, 300-400 years ago when the treaties were created, there was never a border for our people. We passed freely.
The Passamaquoddy traditional territory includes southern New Brunswick and the state of Maine, and occupied the coastal regions, including the Bay of Fundy. Newell says,
to us, there's our ancestral lands, our ancestral waters, and for the Passamaquoddy, the Passamaquoddy, it goes into Nova Scotia. Our Mi'kmaq relatives were always relatives of ours, so we would gather together, we would hunt together, we would fish together.
For Peter Clement and his brothers, sons, and nephews, fishing is a family affair.
We are all fishermen. We've been all fishermen most of our lives. I can remember back fishing black salmon in Quebec with my father, exercising these same rights that we have and always had.
The fishery is controversial. Some say it is not a traditional fishery. Eric Francis says,
"You can look on a bigger picture. We harvest veal. There's all kinds of different things that we harvest. People eat eggs. Those are undeveloped babies, right?"
As the sun begins to rise, the elvers are kept in buckets with air pumps, so they are kept alive. The fishermen say they will keep fishing, and fisheries officers have stopped by, but no arrests have been made. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Southwestern Nova Scotia.
Thanks, Angel. The term land back has echoed across the country for a few years. Now a parliamentary committee is beginning to study the issue, but calling it land restitution. Mohawk human rights and environmental activist Ellen Gabriel was the first witness to offer her thoughts Wednesday evening. The committee asked her how to pursue land back in urban areas. She suggested marking street names and places in Indigenous languages, or setting aside lands where traditional plants and medicines could grow. Gabriel said these simple gestures would be a start, but more is needed.
We have been colonized for so long and it could take, another 150 years before we get to where we really want to go. But we need to discuss this amongst ourselves. I don't have all the answers, neither do you. But I feel like we're always spinning our wheels in the mud and just thinking about really tiny gestures when the public, society itself, is not educated as to their colonial history of the land that they're living on, or they're not even aware of the genocide that took place.
To Winnipeg now, where a beading program meant to help incarcerated Indigenous women in and out of corrections has been limited with the new program. Now, supporters of the initiative fear there will be setbacks for Indigenous women when released from custody. Tamara Pimentel has that story.
Mary Ann Sawicki beads every day. It's a craft she learned while incarcerated at the Women's Correctional Center in Headingley, Manitoba.
Reconnecting with your culture, and it's very therapeutic. Yeah, I bead every day. I have people always messaging me what they want. I make a bunch of custom orders for a lot of people.
She spent 7 months at Headingley, and in that time she sold her work through the Women Helping Women program, an initiative created by Sandra Burling, which connects beaders with buyers, returning all profits to the inmates. APTN spoke with Burling at a holiday trunk sale in December.
You know, the fact that they are coming out of jail without anything and, you know, not having housing, not having support, not having medication, it to me is just really a desperate situation.
But the beading program has now been limited by the Manitoba government. A statement from the province reads in part, WCC is transitioning to a new model, and the beading craft will be continued in the facility in a way that will increase access for inmates free of charge, while alleviating concerns associated with the previous program. A provincial spokesperson would not tell APTN what those concerns are, but says now beadwork can only leave the prison during holidays, such as Mother's Day or Christmas.
Beading is medicine to our women. It offers healing, empowerment, and pride.
Manitoba NDP House Leader Nahani Fontaine brought the issue up on Monday to the Manitoba Minister of Justice.
These women are seeking their financial independence through this beading program. Can the minister tell us when this program will be fully restored?
The program is transitioning so that more of the inmates can participate in the program. The beads will still be the personal property of the inmates, so they can distribute it to those on special occasions.
Sawicki, who is now a full-time beader out of incarceration, says the new program may cause setbacks and reduce the motivation to bead.
They don't have anything to get out with, you know what I mean? Like, some of them just have the clothes on their back too when they get out. I don't think that's fair to take that away, because they're going to get out with nothing, and then they're going to fall back to like getting in trouble, like with crime and everything, and end up back in the same situation they were already in.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Two new reports are taking a close look at how the Whitehorse Emergency Shelter is serving the community. Sarah Connors has the details.
One of the reports found that the shelter is meeting the basic needs of the people who use it. It noted the shelter has an immediate impact on guest health and safety, like helping them access medical care and avoid the elements. The reports also found some guests don't feel safe staying there, especially women. One report noted stakeholders also reported that people trying to stay sober don't find the shelter to be a conducive environment for their recovery and try to avoid the shelter. Respondents noted other issues like a lack of cultural activities and incidents of violence and the financial impact on nearby businesses. The reports were commissioned in 2022 when Yukon government was in control of the shelter. Since October, the Council of Yukon First Nations and nonprofit Connective have been operating the shelter and are addressing those issues. That includes building a women's and children's shelter and hiring a cultural support worker. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A bombshell announcement just now from the Anishinaabe Aski Nation in Northern Ontario after a special in-camera meeting. Derek Fox is out as Grand Chief. The council says the decision is due to Fox's violations of the group's code of conduct. Fox was suspended on February 26th and an investigation was launched. The position of Grand Chief is now vacant, and a by-election will be called within 30 days. Nan says, given the sensitive nature of today's deliberations, no further comment will be made. Today is the Mooseside Campaign Day. We'll take you live to the event in Victoria after the break. Welcome back. Cases of HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, is on the rise in Manitoba. Advocates recently held a rally in Winnipeg to push the provincial government to intervene. Sav Jonesa has more on the issue.
A spike of confirmed HIV cases in Manitoba has advocates calling on the provincial government to act quickly, as according to one report by the Manitoba HIV program, the rate of new cases grows to 3 times higher than the national average.
We need a provincial-wide strategy for Indigenous people around HIV and STBBIs.
Albert McLeod is the director of Two Spirit Consultants of Manitoba. At a recent Winnipeg rally held by advocacy group ACT UP Manitoba, he said the spike is a product of systemic anti-Indigenous racism.
We need our government, whether it's Liberal, NDP, or Conservative, or whichever government, to understand this is a global pandemic of HIV, and it's been around for 40 years, and it should not still be happening in Manitoba. We're a first world country, we have tons of money, and yet what's been given around safe injection, harm reduction, and HIV is a drop in the bucket.
The report, called the Manitoba HIV Program Report, shows that people living with HIV in the province grew 52% between 2018 and 2021. And 73.4% of people referred to the Manitoba HIV program self-identified as Indigenous. According to the report, the most common ways for acquiring HIV was through heterosexual sex and injection drug use due to needle sharing. Thomas Linner, the provincial director for the Manitoba Health Coalition, says the HIV spike is a public health emergency.
More than one person a day dies of an overdose in Manitoba. Just about every day, another person is identified as being HIV positive. We need to take real concrete action to address this public health emergency, and the game playing by this government has to stop.
A provincial spokesperson said they are aware of the increasing HIV numbers and that taking action is a top priority. They state they are continuing to invest in several initiatives, including provincial funding for an Indigenous-led testing and treatment program for urban Indigenous people in Winnipeg. Advocates demand for funding for province-wide HIV awareness and prevention, like supervised consumption sites.
You need the prevention tools, the harm reduction tools in place if you know there are cases of HIV, whether you're rural, urban, northern, remote, or unreserved, right? That message has to get out there. And you can drive from Winnipeg to Thompson, you're not going to see a poster about HIV prevention, right? So it's that attitude of that it's no longer important is false, and we need to get the message out there.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Today marks the 12th annual Mooseside Campaign Day, an event to raise awareness against violence against Indigenous women and girls in Canada. Our APTN video journalist Tina House joins us from the event.
Thank you. We're here in downtown Victoria and it's Mooseside Campaign Day. Joining me today is Brandy Morin, author, journalist extraordinaire. Brandy, welcome to the West Coast.
Tansei. Hi, thank you for welcoming me.
So you wrote a book last year called Our Voices of Fire. Can you tell us a bit more about that book?
Yeah, so it is a story that chronicles my own journey of growing up in and out of the child welfare system and surviving rape and being held against my will at age 12 and just going on to overcome a lot of adversity and then to become this journalist for justice that I am, and really trying to bring the stories of our people and our women to the mainstream, regarding specifically what we're raising awareness for today and the genocide against our women and girls.
Brandy, it's amazing. I've been paying attention on social media to all your international travels. I saw you lastly in Rome when we were there last year for the apology. You just got back from Hawaii and here you are in Victoria. Congratulations for all the work that you've been doing, and I'm so sorry that you've had quite a past with violence yourself. I mean, it is a very serious issue. What would you like to say about genocide against our women here in Canada?
Well, unfortunately, this kind of experience is all too common amongst our women and girls. I'm one of thousands of survivors. I'm also one who happened to make it out of this genocide alive. And I want to say that this is an emergency. There is no time for the status quo anymore. It's time to take action now. And I call upon our warriors to stand up and to stand beside our women. They are needed to help eradicate this violence.
Absolutely, and with the many thousands of cases that we're seeing across the country of women and girls that are missing or have been found murdered, the time is now, definitely. Randy, thank you so much for joining us today, and please support the Mooseside Campaign. Back to you in studio.
Thanks, Tina. Manitowabi is just 1 week away. After the break, we'll introduce you to a jingle dress dancer who will be taking part in the powwow. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Hannah Sage Laforme from Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation submitted this photo as part of our latest In Focus episode looking at Indigenous art. Hannah says she created this piece to honor all mothers and caregivers for Mother's Day, which is coming up this weekend. Great work, Hannah. You can check out more of the art that was submitted on the latest In Focus episode over on our website, aptnnews.ca. And if you want to be featured as our photo of the day, email your pictures to share@aptn.ca or tag APTN News on Instagram. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 24 for Halifax, showers and 25 in Fredericton, rain and 12 in Kuujjuaq, snow and +4 in Nain. 25 above with rain in Montreal, 19 and showers for Val-d'Or. Cloudy and 21 in Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 24 in North Bay. 21 and cloudy in Thunder Bay, sun's out and 22 in Sioux Lookout. 16 for God's Lake, 22 in Norway House. 17 for Barons River, cloudy and 24 in Winnipeg. 16 with showers in Regina, rain and 21 in Saskatoon. 24 in Meadow Lake, 20 with rain in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 27 with showers and high level, rain and 28 for Fort Mac. 23 with showers in Edmonton and Lethbridge, sunny, and 23 for Vancouver and Victoria. Sun's out and 24 in Prince George, cloudy and 20 for Smithers. 7 in Old Crow, rain and 16 in Whitehorse. 20 with rain in Yellowknife, 25 in Wrigley. +1 with snow in Sax Harbor, 4 above for Paulatuck. 1 in Chesterfield, cloudy and 8 for Arviette. -6 with snow in Resolute, 5 below with snow in Arctic Bay. A University of Winnipeg psychology student will take part in the upcoming Manitowabi Festival, despite a busy schedule. Madison Moore is embracing her Cree culture and has been learning contemporary jingle dress dancing. Leanne Sanders reports.
21-year-old Madison Moore has a lot on the go and will take part in the powwow at Manitowabi. The Winnipeg Festival celebrates Indigenous arts, culture, and music, May 18th to the 22nd. Moore says growing up on Opaskwayak Cree Nation, 6 hours north of Winnipeg, she wasn't always encouraged to participate in her culture. But about a year ago, she started dancing as a way to stay fit.
Moving forward, I actually wanted to go into powwow dancing and reclaim my culture a bit more, because I wasn't really incorporated with my family growing up, because of the residential schools and generational trauma. But now my kukum actually just recently made my jingle dress a couple days ago, so I've been trying it on, wearing it out.
One of Moore's goals is to increase Indigenous representation in any way that she can. She's being interviewed for the Miss Universe pageant and made a brief appearance in a History Channel documentary on Truth and Reconciliation Day. She just finished her second year of university, something her grandparents made sure she understood the importance of.
They've always encouraged me to persevere through anything, and especially with school. My grandpa, he always nailed me on go to school, get an education.
Moore is also learning Swampy Cree on her own and is a youth support worker at Needham, where she tries to uplift young people.
There's a lot of sadness in the community too, and it does affect our youth, and I can see it being frontline worker. They're struggling with mental health, drug abuse, addictions, everything.
Moore credits her culture and her ancestors with staying positive.
I smudge every day and pray, and I talk to my grandpa who passed away, but I always know that he's here for me, he's watching over us, and all the ancestors and all my spirit guides, they're, taking care of me and my family, and that's what really helps me keep grounded in life.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Good stuff, Madison. Time now to head over to Ottawa, where Fraser Needham standing by with a look at Nation to Nation.
This week on Nation to Nation, there's been a lot of talk on Parliament Hill recently about guns, which ones will still be legal and which ones won't under a new government gun law, and how this will affect Indigenous hunters. As well, the Métis Nation of Ontario signed a self-government agreement with Ottawa earlier this year, but it's attracting a lot of negative attention from First Nations. And the First Nations Land Guardians held a conference in Ottawa this week. We'll talk to someone who says Indigenous people are becoming increasingly involved in environmental movements. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Thanks, Fraser. Tomorrow night on AP10 Investigates, Christopher Reed speaks with two mothers in Saskatchewan who say that hospital staff took their babies after telling them they'd had died. But at least one of them has found evidence that her son may still be alive. The story is called Stolen. Here's a preview with Joan Strong. Her mother is still looking for the child she says was taken.
And the next thing you know, the nurse wrapped the baby, and she put the baby on her shoulder, like to hold it like this, she said, and she walked out with the baby. And she said, I thought she was taking the baby to nursery.
Georgina's daughter, Joan Strong, is spearheading the family's effort to solve the mystery of what might have happened, and hopefully discover whether there might be a missing brother or sister somewhere. She knows her mother's story, and she's the one who's doing most of the talking to the RCMP and the FSIN. Strong says her mom was surprised to be told her baby had died. Her mom's English is a little weak, but she challenged the nurse about the supposed death.
And the nurse said, your baby died. She said, no, I delivered my baby, she said. And she said, no, your baby died. And she had to accept that. So she said, bring my baby to me. And they said to her, no, we can't bring your baby to you because your baby was put on the plane that went out, and the baby was sent out for autopsy.
When she met with a doctor some days later, MacDonald continued to ask to see the body.
And finally the doctor said to her, your baby died because you're an alcoholic. My mother has never drank in her life. I grew up with a sober mother.
You can watch that full story tomorrow night right here after the news. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. Of course, for news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Nation to Nation is next. Have a great night.